full. This news broke today and is breaking news, and this isn't airing today. So perhaps other things have developed since then. You know, like I'm sure, okay, so here's some eventual news. The president isn't mad online. He's not yelling at every internet accessible human being on the planet with his greasy thumbs on his unsecured Galaxy S3. And nobody else implicated in this case has flipped on the angry man who would happily betray every person he's ever met. No, I'm sorry, not angry. He's not angry while being logged on onto online. Moving on. Speaking of a president's possible obstruction of justice, here's some more news. The president is appointing a lifelong justice to the Supreme Court who may adjudicate cases related to the president's possible obstruction of justice. It's one of those cool things that adults should let happen. Amidst the hearing for Kavanaugh, there was some possible perjury, some out-of-context quotes, some political theater regarding sharing confidential documents, risking being kicked out of the Senate for documents that were approved for release the night before. There was an anonymous accusation of sexual assault against Kavanaugh that Dianne Feinstein kept to herself for months, which seems like not a great move. And then in response, less than 12 hours later, a letter was sent by 65 former alleged acquaintances of Kavanaugh saying, "He never sexually assaulted me." Just like Sweet Jazz, you have to listen to the women he didn't assault. And everyone seems to think that this accusation is either only disqualifying or only unbelievable. And just maybe neither of those things is true. And this requires some sort of investigation before moving on with the hearing. And back to the hearing, Ted Cruz, this guy, he goes on and on about how Democrats are complaining about getting tens of thousands of documents 2 hours before the hearing, which, yeah, Ted. And they're questioning Kavanaugh's character, yeah, Ted, etc. And it culminates with this.
But it is, at the end of the day, simply an attempt to distract and delay.
Yeah, no shit, Ted, is what someone should have shouted in that room, in that moment. So he'd have to respond to it. Hey, Ted, yeah, we're trying to delay it. That's what this is. It's politics, Ted. And that has consequences for people. And so we're trying to delay it. You'd do the same thing if you could, and we know that because you did, Ted. You stopped the nomination hearing from happening for 8 months because of an upcoming election. As your colleague, Lindsey Graham, like a minute ago said, if you want to pick judges, you have to win an election. And that's true, I suppose, good sirs, because there's a fucking election in 2 months, after 2 years of the majority party pushing through legislation profoundly unpopular with the public. And so in a couple of months, Ted, some of us, Ted, might not be here anymore, Ted. And you're so principled, yet all of you conservatives seem extremely cool with a lifetime justice being nominated by the guy under investigation for obstruction of justice. And maybe we should all take a moment to talk about that fact. Somebody say that in the room, please? Just like say, fucking, yeah, Ted, the president is implicated in crimes, you see. And here he is, potentially picking a judge that will choose his fate. And hey, Ted, remember when you were supposed to endorse Donald Trump at the Republican convention and you went out there and you said, vote your conscience? But some people booed and now fucking look at you? Remember that, Ted? Remember, now look at you, Ted? But more than any of those reasons that we should maybe cool it right now, remember when you said, Ted Cruz, that if Hillary Clinton was elected, you wouldn't ever fill a Supreme Court vacancy? Or, as I'm going to directly quote you, there will be plenty of time for debate on that issue. There is certainly long historical precedent for a Supreme Court with fewer justices. I would note, just recently, that Justice Breyer observed that the vacancy is not impacting the ability of the court to do its job. That's a debate that we are going to have. Are you, Ted? Are you going to have it, Ted? You, and I don't want to be rude, wormy little guy. And you know what? F it. All right, here's our new segment, legally distinct from an old segment called Petty Joke Junction. Petty Jerk Jokes 1. All right. Ted Cruz, you look like you just found out you were Ted Cruz. Here's some news. Remember about the president's lawyer's crimes? One of those crimes involved payments to Stormy Daniels. And here.
Stand here today and say the president has never lied to the American people, because so many people now look back at that tape of him on Air Force One saying he knew nothing about these payments, when in fact we now know he knew everything about these payments. So has he lied?
Look, again, I think that's a ridiculous accusation.
And here's some unfortunate news. Nobody was like, hey Sarah, what the f***? I just explained an obvious and verifiable lie said by the president, of which there are many, and said, is the president lying? And you said, that's ridiculous, and moved on, as if you can just fucking do that. And an entire month will go by, and nobody brings it up again, and you just keep getting away with that. Do you think that's good? Are you doing good right now, Sarah? Like, hey, everything's calm here, okay? Forget that. It's just you and me. Do you think this is good, Sarah?
I think that's a ridiculous accusation.
Here's some more news. Again, remember about the president's campaign manager's crimes? When asked about the former consultant for a Putin-backed political party in Ukraine, the president said, Paul Manafort's a good man. The verdict doesn't involve me, but I still feel, it's a very sad thing that happened. And in response to this, one of the many reporters near the president thankfully pointed out, but nobody said it involved you, Mr. President. Why would you go out of your way to say that? Oh, no. Wait, they didn't. Nobody said that. Well, at least somebody did shout, you say he's a good man and it's a sad thing that happened, but he was also just found guilty of multiple crimes, including tax and bank fraud. So what do you mean by that? You're the president. Oh, nobody said that either. I didn't even have to check. I knew that. I was doing a bit. But that should be happening, right? Like at this point? At what point does the sanctity of the office of the president stop you from shouting, okay, Mr. President, but when you constantly talk like that, it makes you sound guilty. And maybe he'll snap at you, and you can just be like, look, I'm sorry, but innocent people don't talk like that, man. And we all can tell. And some people are going along with it, with you for their own craven reasons. But innocent people don't talk like that, man. And I just want to know, buddy, how long do you think you can keep this up? And maybe you'll be banned from reporting on the White House from then on, but you'll also make him really mad on video about being told something true to his face, and then we'll all get to see that. If you make a scene in front of Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the only negative consequence is that you won't be physically in the room anymore when she lies to your fucking face and moves on with no consequences. So show her consequences for once, and just be like, Sarah, what you said is fucking insane. What do you think is going to happen when it's over? Do you think we'll forgive you? Oh, wait, you'll just go on the Emmys. That's right. That was cool. That was real cool. And speaking of Sean Spicer, here's some old news. In early 2017, Sean Spicer was asked if the president thinks climate change is a hoax, because he has said that before. And Sean Spicer never got back to us, even after he was asked again and again. And there's still no answer to that question that has stopped being asked, despite so many anti-environmental policies implemented by the administration. So speaking of that, here's some more news. After record temperatures again this year, still, the tropics are alarmingly active this year, again, still. And so the president reminisced about what a great, quote, unsung success he did with Puerto Rico. And he talked like he talks about things. And this would have been a great time to say, hey, almost 3,000 people died due to the hurricane there. And then we could see him not having known that and reacting to it in real time, instead of getting his fucking tweets about it all day. Oh, and here's some fucking news. FEMA is going to test out a new feature that will be able to send direct messages from the president straight into your phone. It's happening this week, people. He's going to make everyone's brains as broken as his own at all costs. Well, maybe $10 million less than all costs, because here's some news. The president moved that amount of money from FEMA to ICE. Cool, cool. That makes sense, since his idea of a humanitarian effort is to invade a country and take half of their oil as payment, his words. Though FEMA did state that the change will not affect their rescue efforts in the Carolinas. Here's just in news. The Department of Homeland Security has also moved $169 million from other programs to ICE, from like $29 million